So the guy joining us in studio right now, you might have heard of his father. His father's name is Jay Bloom, a self-made billionaire. And for most of his life, he was one of the largest Democrat donors on the planet. But Jay Bloom is no longer, at least, supporting the presidential ticket. And his son, his name is Shawn Bloom. A little bit about Shawn. He's 21 years old. His estimated worth is somewhere around $80 million. And Shawn has an extremely large following on social media. He knows a lot of influential figures, big names, people like Elon Musk, people like Barron Trump. But we're going to also be talking to Shawn about why he is supporting Donald Trump for president of the United States. And he comes from a left family. I think that's very fair to characterize. And of course, being who his father is, Jay Bloom. Well, first of all, Shawn, thank you so much for being here. At 21 years old, I didn't know what to do with $20 in my bank account, let alone 80 million. So
we've all been there, bro. We've all been there.
So I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
obviously there's a lot of things we will probably disagree on, but that's okay. As you know, me, fine. I would much rather prefer talk to somebody that I disagree with than somebody that I agree with. Okay, so first of all, what is that like to be 21 years old and to be a millionaire, let alone a multimillionaire? What is that like at your age, and how do you handle that? Because there's so many people at your age that do run into a lot of money.
Yeah, especially today, man. Yeah. No, I've blown it all too, man. I've made crazy amounts of money when I was younger, and I've blown it all before. I've been broke many times.
Do you get this from a lot of people, the word nepotism, where, listen, Eric Trump, Don Jr., who you also know, both of them, where people will say, well, wait a second, look at who your father is. You didn't earn this. Look at who your father is. I would imagine you get that from some people. Is that frustrating, and how do you respond to
I mean, I get it all the time. I mean, this is, people think I grew up rich and stuff like that. I mean, I don't really explain it very often, but that's not what happened. My dad and I actually kind of came up together. I started helping him raise money for stuff when I was 14, and he had a real estate fund that we kind of grew together, and I brought a lot of cool people into it, and yeah, since then, did a bunch of ventures. I got a bunch of my own projects, and yeah, dude, we kind of came up together, and I was blessed to meet some of the people that I met in my life, and
let's talk about
kind
that.
of a unit,
Let's talk about
team.
That. Elon Musk. Can you remember the first time you met Elon Musk? What was that experience like for you?
Well, the first time I ever hit him up, a mutual friend that introduced us briefly, over a phone call actually, and then I ended up hitting him up on my own later on, because I already had his number, and I was talking to him about a deal that I was working on that I thought could benefit SpaceX and Starlink, and it was right before he was buying Twitter, so it was kind of a hard time for him, but great conversations, amazing person.
What is a typical conversation like with Elon? Because you had told me you spoke with him a week ago. Like, what's a typical conversation?
He's a cool guy, he's very
strange
smart.
to me.
Well, he's strange, but they're all strange, dude. They're all strange.
Yeah.
But he's a very cool guy,
Why do you think he's supporting Donald Trump?
I mean, probably for the same reason I am, and I think a lot of other people from where he came from. He came from Silicon Valley, which, is a very liberal place, and all these other guys like, Mark Andreessen and Peter Thiel and all them, they were all Democrats like me and my dad used to be back in the day.
Is your dad not defined as a Democrat anymore?
My dad is kind of all over the place, man. Sometimes he goes back to his old ways, and then sometimes he's like, "Oh, actually, that's weird." You know how he is. You talk to him. He's kind of in the fence.
So, but you develop a friendship with Elon Musk. Barron Trump is, what's the word I would use? He's out of the public eye most of the time, even though we all know who his family is. He doesn't do any interviews, and yet you get the opportunity, and maybe if you want, you could explain how you had the opportunity to meet Barron and get to know him. How does something like that happen for somebody like you, who's, listen, you're a guy with a lot of money. Well, everybody knows who your father is. How do you get into a situation? I know you know a lot of prominent people, to get a chance to develop a friendship with Barron Trump.
Well, so I actually introduced my dad to Trump and brought him to Mar-a-Lago.
To Donald.
Yeah, I had a couple mutual friends of mine that went to Mar-a-Lago pretty often, and they invited me. And the first time I ever went to Mar-a-Lago, I had a friend of mine who's running for Congress, Abe Hamada, actually, out of Arizona. Mm-hmm. Very cool guy. I'll introduce you to him actually next time he's through Vegas. He won. Abe is an amazing guy, and he was doing an event at Mar-a-Lago, and it was the first time I ever went there. And I met a lot of people that I knew there, and the more people that I became friends with, the cooler I realized the crowd was. And yeah, eventually I just just got cool with everyone. And Mar-a-Lago is an amazing place with amazing people, and I really like the crowd there.
That's cool. So not a lot of people that know a lot about Barron Trump, and I certainly don't expect you to come on the show today and reveal all these secrets.
No,
that you
dude,
might know.
I say
But what
this,
is he like? What is Barron Trump like? Just hanging out with the dude. What is
He's
he?
an
He's
amazing
18 years old, right?
Yeah, and he's so smart, man. Like he's such a good person, and he's got a really good heart, and he's very well educated, and he's just super fun to talk to.
And he's going to college right now, right?
Yeah. Me and him are super close in age, so it's we can talk about like memes and like funny stuff. Like he's really cool.
So
very, very cool.
Does he ever talk about his dad?
I mean, sometimes, I ask him how he's doing and stuff. Him and his dad have an amazing relationship, man. I told you the other day, it's like how me and my dad talk to each other. Like, it's like an everyday thing. They're really, really cool with each other.
And maybe this isn't your typical upbringing, but like when I think of a dad and his son growing up, I think of, okay, where are the videos and pictures of them playing catch and baseball, and
I don't have those
where
videos
the pictures,
public.
right? But I think like in a normal, not to use the term abnormal, but in a normal upbringing, usually you have stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
This isn't a normal upbringing.
Well, I understand that.
Same with me, dude. Like I don't like when my dad posts like pictures of me and him like from the past, like any type of thing like that, because it's just the more public you are, the more private you like to keep certain members of your family. Don Jr. is a full-grown adult. Eric's a full-grown adult.
Is he a full-grown
we
adult?
Can agree to disagree, I guess. But they're out there. They're outspoken. They can handle themselves.
So I get all that.
Going
stuff.
to school. So
I get all that stuff. It's
he wants a private life until
and I would respect that as well.
Yeah, of course,
listen. I don't have anything against Barron Trump. I know almost nothing about him.
Most people don't know.
I do have.
Cool.
As you know, I have a lot against Donald Trump, and I have a lot against Melania Trump. I don't know anything about Barron. I've never spoken negatively about him in one way or another.
No, he's amazing.
Yeah,
man. very smart.
And I'll take you for your word on that. I have nothing against him.
You'll see him in the future, man. He'll be out more.
Cool. So explain to me this. Here comes the question, right?
Okay.
Why Donald Trump? When I see somebody that has a lot of money, the first thing that comes to my mind is, okay, you're going to vote for Donald Trump because he's going to give you tax breaks and you're going to be saving a lot of money. I told your dad that last night.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel. I'm an honest person. For you, besides that factor, because you obviously have a lot of net worth, why Donald Trump? Why do you support Donald Trump?
I support him for a variety of reasons, man. In my opinion, the last 4 years compared to what it was, the first election like that I ever voted in, I voted for Biden, against Trump because I used to be a Democrat, right? We all were, and dude, it's just ever since like the beginning of these last couple years, man. It's just I've seen an America that I thought I would never see, and just everything, man, from the border to the crime rate to just using my eyes, right? Looking at facts, statistics, this and that, right? Forgetting
you're a statistics guy.
I am, dude, but forgetting that, like just using my own eyes from what I've seen, just moving around the country and traveling around the world too. I just got back from Europe. It's very different over there than it is here.
But let's focus. I appreciate
talking
that.
about America, man. It's not the same as it used to be.
So I appreciate you traveling around the world. But let's talk about this country. You said you're a stat person. Violent crime is down 30% under the Biden administration. Isn't that a good thing?
That's what it says, but I don't believe it is.
Why don't you believe it?
Dude, I go outside, like especially in a lot of the blue states, man. California is one of my favorite states. And it's just, I can't believe what's happened to it in the last few years. The homelessness is out of control. The crime's out of control. Every time I'm there, dude, there's people walking by. Like, I've seen people get robbed just out in daylight in the last year.
But I'm confused what you're saying. People weren't getting robbed under Donald Trump? I don't understand.
No, it wasn't like that. Especially in places like Beverly Hills, it wasn't like that. The homeless wasn't nearly as bad as it is now. The immigration problem wasn't as bad as it is now. It's insane what's going on.
So if your concern is immigration, I think a lot of people are concerned with immigration.
For sure.
And the border. Yeah. Then why does Donald Trump tell the Republican senators not to sign this bipartisan deal where MAGA Republicans were sitting at the bargaining table and the Border Patrol endorsed this bill? It wasn't an end all to everything, but most reasonable people would say, okay, it was a decent start. It would have helped. Why did he tell Republican senators to not pass this bill?
I can't speak for Donald Trump and what he does.
Can I get a theory and you can tell me whether you agree or not?
Sure.
Maybe he didn't want Joe Biden to look good, just like the bipartisan infrastructure bill, where Donald Trump promised that he would pass that bill when he was president. He never did. And then Joe Biden was able to do what Trump didn't do, and maybe Trump didn't want that to happen. Could that be possible?
I don't know. I don't know about the bill that you're referring to, specifically the bipartisan bill. You were talking to my dad about it the other day.
Well, the border bill. That border bill.
I don't know about that border bill, but
right.
I don't know, man. The illegal immigration issue in the last few years has been crazy.
It's definitely a problem.
I have some friends that actually have to go through the border pretty constantly,
Right.
and he told me that the corruption and the stuff that's going on down there is insane.
So listen, Shawn, I'm not here to try to convince you to vote for somebody else. That's not my point.
I get it.
I just make the case of, well, according to, and you say you travel around the world, which I know you do. You're all over the place.
Man, I love
The
love
G7
world.
countries around the world, we're number one when it comes to the lowest inflation. I think that's a win for Joe Biden and his administration.
I don't believe that to be true, man. I'm telling you, when I was
how
over
could you
there,
be a stat person and not believe that?
because look, I like statistics and I love numbers, but I don't believe all the numbers they put out are 100% true. I don't. When I was over there, man, talking about food, gas prices, crime rate, like everything is lower there. Like I can walk around in it. Most places in Europe, like Germany, Italy, which are big countries that have immigration.
Don't you think guns have a big part of that? All the gun violence throughout this country, illegal guns, legal guns, what the case may be.
No, because here's the thing about the European countries, like guns in general are basically impossible to get. They're impossible. Even the people that try to get them illegally, they still can't. Like in America, like if you were to make it harder to get guns, you would have more of a problem of the people defending themselves with guns and the people getting them. Like the people be able to get them the same.
But you believe that, like
in Europe, it's just like it's not even a question. Like,
but 85% of the country believes in comprehensive background checks. Yet Republicans seem to vote against these bills.
Most of my Republican friends support background. I mean, we have background checks even here in Nevada.
I'm talking about elected officials, right? But I'm talking about elected officials in Washington, D.C. If you see their commercials, they care more about their A+ rating from the NRA. I agree with you. You know, it's much harder to get an illegal gun in other countries. I think that's a great thing. I think we all can agree.
No, and here's the thing. Like here's why it's great though, because they've managed to stop people from getting guns illegally. You know what I mean? The biggest problem in America isn't legal guns; it's illegal guns. A lot of the guns that you're used to commit crimes, unless it's like, you know, stupid criminals, right? They use their own gun to do something.
When I look at some of the,
you know?
Okay, so Shawn, when I look at, in some cases you're right, but when I look at the mass shooting here in Vegas, guy bought all these guns legal, the Uvalde, Texas shooting, kid turns 18 years old, legally buys guns. When I look at this last shooting, he took the gun from his dad's house. His dad obviously charged.
I got to say one thing though. These are situations that were very public. The amount of these shootings that happen on a day-to-day basis that they don't talk about on the news,
well, sure,
is
one
a
or
lot
two people
different.
killed. I agree.
You know what I'm talking about. It's a lot different than those specific situations.
Right.
Those ones were huge. Like the Vegas thing was huge.
So I agree with you, and I think we will both agree that it doesn't matter whether an innocent person is killed from gang violence in Chicago or an innocent child is killed in a school. A life is a life. It's horrible. It's tragic. We both don't want that to happen.
No, absolutely not.
Right. And I know you're being honest with me.
I am. I do think there's a better way, and it doesn't involve taking all the guns away or anything like that, like people think the Democrats are going to do, which some want that, but that's not what's going to happen.
You know that that's not going to
happen. No, that's not going to happen.
And that's
even if they tried it, it wouldn't pass.
So let's start with Kamala Harris.
Like the unrealized capital gains, which you and I agree is crazy.
Sure. So we'll
not going to, you know what I mean?
We'll get back to Donald Trump, but let's talk about some issues that I think you're going to agree with Kamala Harris on, and I could be wrong. She wants an assault weapons ban. She owns a Glock. She said it on national television the other day.
I own over 30 assault weapons.
And listen, if you're a responsible gun owner,
Kamala Harris, believe it or not, most people are.
Kamala Harris does not want to take your guns away. What she has talked about was a assault weapons ban, which, by the way, fizzled out in the early 90s. Gun violence was way down. There are certain guns, in my opinion, that should not be sold to the general public. They should be sold only for people, or not sold, but given to law enforcement and our brave men and women in uniform. Would you agree with me? You don't need all these crazy assault weapons to defend yourself.
Well, what do you mean by crazy assault weapons? Because like an AR-15, which is pretty standard, you can buy an AR-15 at 18. You know, what I do think is the age limits are what's stupid, in my opinion. Like you can buy an AR-15 at 18, but you can't buy a pistol till you're 21. You know what I mean? Well, I just went through this because I'm 22 now.
I got you.
I just turned 22.
I think there should be mandatory training on how to use a weapon. I'm uncomfortable.
I agree with that.
Okay. I think like a car, you should have to re-register your gun, make sure that your eyesight's good and your health is good before you're able to use a weapon. I think it should be treated like a vehicle.
I think that should be part of the test.
Yeah, I think it should
be one test where like
Shawn,
same thing as driving a vehicle.
You took a driving test at one point in your life, as did I.
Yeah.
Why not have a similar type of test before
No, I agree. Here's the thing. Like, and and I'm sure we'll talk about background checks and all that, because I can tell you, like, here in Nevada, where some people would say compared to New York, California, it's very easy to get a gun here.
Right.
You walk in, and some days your background check will clear within a day, and you can
Right.
get out of there, you know. Or if you have a CCW like I have,
Right.
you can just go in and buy a pistol, you know.
So, Shawn,
it's not
I think
paperwork, but I
you
bought one
probably
yesterday, actually.
agree with Kamala Harris on a lot of these stances because she's talked about it publicly. Abortion. Donald Trump is the reason why.
Well, I don't 100% agree with throwing the gun stuff.
Okay,
because
but I think you agree with her more than you disagree. I think that would be a fair thing to say. A lot of, but let's talk about abortion now. She's made it very clear. She's against Roe versus Wade being overturned. She believes in the woman's right to choose. It doesn't mean that Democrats out there all think that a woman should be getting abortions at 9 months.
I'm going to be honest. Sorry to cut you off. I'm going to be honest. I am, relatively pro-choice to a certain point. Like, I think after the first trimester, I don't think it should be allowed after a certain point.
So you think
maybe up to the second?
Like what they did in Arizona, you think 6 weeks is fair? I think it should be much longer than that.
Here's the thing. Especially in a crazy situation, like you know when you're pregnant. You know what I mean? And I feel like some people.
Well, I'm not a woman. I don't know.
Well, I know. I know a lot of
know.
girls. And they girls that have had abortions too that I'm friends with. I know.
You want to take that right away from them?
It's not taking the right away from them. I don't think it should be. I actually liked Robert Kennedy's stance on this specifically. Remember that test thing that we took that you could.
Well, Robert Kennedy's very pro-choice.
Yeah. His answer was interesting. Yeah. It also involved leaving it up to the states because. And something I actually do like about that is I think that is a way to make both sides happy.
But here's the problem with that. If you leave it up to the states, sometimes it goes to the conservative Supreme Court like did in Arizona, and the people don't have the right to vote on it.
But they could just pop over to California, a 4-hour drive
right,
from
but
Arizona.
I understand what you're saying.
You know
But
what I mean?
Shawn, here's the deal. I don't think geography should have anything to do with a woman's body. If a woman wants to get an abortion, she shouldn't have to drive 6 hours to get one.
But
I think that's absurd.
Every state, but here's the thing: if every state, look, there's certain medicines I can't get here in the U.S. that could cure problems I have that I have to go all the way to Europe to get. You know what I mean?
But isn't that different though? I mean,
it's not different though
because
anything that involves a medical procedure, even cancer, like say you have cancer, right? Our medical system is broken.
Right, but that's a disease. Getting pregnant isn't a disease.
It's not a disease, but you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's the same thing in the sense where it's a big deal.
I don't understand Republicans where they don't want government involvement when it comes to basically anything. But hey, if you're pregnant, the government should tell you what to do. I have a serious problem with that.
I don't think it should be banned. I think we either leave it up to the states, which you and I can disagree on that, or what we should do is take the RFK approach, which is ban it up to a certain point. Because at a certain point, especially if you were raped or something
6 weeks
serious
is too
happened.
soon. Too soon to me.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
You want to do 3 or 4?
Month and a half.
I just want to give a woman the right to choose. And when Donald Trump gets on a debate stage, you support Donald Trump. When he gets on a debate stage and he says that doctors are executing babies after they're born, first of all, that's illegal. Why would Shawn? Why would he? Does it bother you when he lies about stuff like that?
There's Democrats that support that.
Who?
There are. I can't name them. I've heard people talk.
I haven't heard one prominent Democrat that's ever said they're okay with doctors executing babies. But my question to you is,
execution of a baby.
Well,
it's right after.
Well, when the former president of the United States gets on a debate stage,
yep,
and this is where we get into the Trump stuff, and he lies. He lies
all politicians lie.
Not to the extent where Donald Trump
and
does.
None of them. And no, that's not true. And Kamala Harris lied a lot of times during their debate. CNN did a fact check on her, which was crazy. What was it? MSNBC. It was one of the Democratic news networks that did a crazy fact check, and she lied a lot.
Trump has still not conceded the 2020 election. Donald Trump lied about cats and dogs in Springfield. I'm just going by the last couple months, by the way. He lied about the communication between Joe Biden and Governor Kemp. He's lied about relief funds. I'm just going by the last couple weeks.
I'm just saying politicians lie, and a lot of them don't keep promises to people.
There's a lot of politicians that are not always honest. I agree with you.
And none of them keep their promises, man. None of them do.
But I think there's a fine line between saying not all politicians are honest and then compare that to Donald Trump, who I think is a habitual liar who lies every day.
He's not, dude. And if he really wanted to do all those extreme things that he says he's going to do, like he did around the first election, he would have done it in his 4 years. He didn't.
Well, he helped overturn Roe versus Wade. He brags about that.
Well, that didn't happen.
He said he was going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. He didn't build the wall.
My dad explained to you how that's possible.
Well, yeah, but he gave me
you might see him implement that.
He gave me a theory of how he would deal with immigration. But Donald Trump said he campaigned on, we're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Mexico didn't pay for it. He built 16% of the wall. In fact, I think it's less than that. He also said he was going to hire a special prosecutor to go after Hillary Clinton. He never did that either. I mean, tell me right now what Kamala Harris is campaigning for. What, in your opinion, what is she lying about? Blatant lies.
I don't want to talk about it because we're just gonna end up going into a long debate. I know we're gonna have to get into calls and
Well,
stuff.
we're going to take calls, but you're not voting.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like I've know them both. I've met them both, just
Mhm.
as you have met. I know you've met Kamala, right? Have
Mhm.
you?
I have.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, dude, honestly, there's a lot of stuff I could go into. I know.
You
we're
think
gonna
she's a
have to go to
smart
calls.
person?
Personally, no.
Why?
I think, you know what? Actually, and slightly off topic, I think Joe Biden used to be very smart. You know, he just got old. That was his thing. But I think she's genuinely just talking to her, man. She's not a smart person.
Why do you say that?
Off the camera, especially, dude.
Why?
She wore an earpiece during the debate.
Explain this to me. How could you? No, she didn't.
She
Come
did.
on.
Did you see the company
on.
came out about it too? And
What
they were
company?
like, the company that they accused her of wearing that earpiece thing was the name. I forgot the name of it.
Wait, hold on a second.
They went up a tweet. They're like, we can't confirm or deny that it's our product, but it looks suspiciously similar.
So you're making the case that you believe Kamala Harris was wearing earpiece.
Was wearing
earrings?
during the debate. And
You
then
don't-
there was another video.
Wait,
that
hold on. You
I
don't
wanna
believe,
show
you don't believe that.
No, she was.
You're being
She
serious.
was. There's another video of her like messing with it and taking it off. She's like, this thing isn't on. You haven't seen that video?
First of all, if
I
there
tried to
was,
send it to someone. It
if
got
there was
deleted.
if there was audio going from her earrings into her ear, you would have heard it because there was a microphone there.
You wouldn't have heard it.
And number
That's
two,
not how they're designed.
number two, making a case like that when they weren't even in her ears, that somehow
No, you can put something against your ear or on the bottom of the ear.
you
and it
really
uses
be-
vibrational
you
sound.
really
I've worn
believe
something like that actually. It's like a little earpiece.
you really believe that the earrings that she decided to put on before that debate were earpieces and somebody
Yeah.
was talking to her in you believe that?
Yeah.
Okay, well
There's, I gotta show you that video, dude. It was crazy.
We'll
I tried to
agree-
send it to someone. but
we'll
it keeps
agree
getting
to
deleted.
we'll agree to disagree on that one. I do not believe she was
We
wearing
can't.
earpiece.
The company even tweeted about
I
it.
would
They're
I would also say this: when you become a duly elected AG, when you become an elected senator, when you
Yep.
become the vice president and maybe the next president of the United States, when you pay your way through school by working at fast food chains, not only do I have a lot of respect for her for doing so, but I find she was a very skilled prosecutor, and I think she's a very intelligent woman. Now, you might not like the way she talks, and you're entitled to your opinion, but I would never say that she is you know who I think is stupid?
You're gonna say Donald Trump?
No, I was going to go with some other people to start. You know who I think is extremely dumb?
Who?
Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz.
I don't know that. I know Marjorie very well. Actually, she's
Yeah.
really different in person.
Yeah. Well,
She's
she
actually
might.
pretty.
She might be.
You would probably find like if you just talked to her like at the Bagel Cafe
I
or
spoke
something.
to her boyfriend, and he was very kind to me.
She's kind too.
We had a very pleasant conversation, but at a minimum, then you would call that two-faced and phony.
They're
and I don't
all
like,
phony.
I
What
dis-
don't you understand?
I disagree with you.
I know all these politicians
met-
personally. I'm telling you, a lot of Democrats too.
Okay,
that
well,
are not the same when the camera's on. They lie a
okay,
lot.
well,
telling you.
again,
I know them very well.
all I say is this: I can give you example after example. We're not going to litigate Donald Trump, but I can give you example after example.
I could
of his
too.
blatant lies.
I could give you
And
examples of a lot of people. But I'm
I
not
hear
going
you,
to. I'm
but
friends with them.
I
dude.
hear you.
know.
I hear you, but you're
They're
not
all
voting.
two-faced.
I understand, but you're not voting for Kamala Harris. So what I want to know from you to pick your brain is, why is she a liar? What has she said in campaigning the last couple months that would lead you to believe she's not telling the truth? I think it's an important question because you're voting for Trump.
Yep.
We agree that Trump lies a lot. Okay, fine. We can put
They
that
all lie
aside
a
for a
lot.
moment. Right. Okay. I want to know your criticisms of Kamala because it's important because you make the claim that you don't think she's intelligent. I respectfully disagree. I think she's quite intelligent. But like from a policy
Have you
standpoint,
talked to her?
I've met her.
You need to like, dude. You got to sit down and talk to her for a long.
Your
period
father
of-
disagrees, and I know you don't speak for your
No,
dad.
he
but
doesn't, dude.
Your
If-
father
if
told me
you- if
she's
the
very.
Three of us, the three of us talked about. We should have talked about Kamala directly because my dad tells me different. in his
Okay, well,
opinion.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's very smart talking about Hannibal Lecter, talking about electrocuting sharks, saying ripping up parts of the Constitution, attacking women on looks, attacking POWs. That makes you a bad person, maybe, but I also think it makes you very, very stupid. For example, he talks about taxes on tips. We've talked about this.
Mhm.
So Kamala Harris's plan, no tax on tips, is very different than Donald Trump's plan. I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
And you tell me if you think this is stupid or smart. Talking about Donald Trump now. Let's just talk about a stripper for a moment, okay?
Okay.
His eyes lit up now. Sean's eyes lit up. All right, no, I'm just kidding. A stripper that makes $300,000 a year on tips. Under Donald Trump's plan, he would not tax that stripper. But yet you have somebody working at a restaurant or somebody working at a Target or Walmart making $10 an hour, and they're going to be taxed on their salary. Sean,
I think the problem is the corporations, man. We need to be harder on the corporations because Here's the thing, dude. Again, this is a thing in Europe, dude. Like, people don't tip in Europe. It's crazy. It's not even expected. Like, when I tip people, they're like, "Bro, you don't have to. It's fine." Like,
I get that. I know the culture is different with tipping.
No,
but
I'm giving you an example, but the reason it's different is because the government just is better ran. All these countries are better ran. Like, housing isn't as expensive as it is here.
All right, but let me ask you about taxing on tips.
Inflation is out of control here, dude.
I
Everything
understand.
is so expensive.
Okay, I agree with you. Okay, there's a lot of issues we have.
I have money, but I'm telling you,
I get it.
The gas station, the grocery prices, the housing
that's
prices.
Not Joe Biden's fault. We have inflation all over the world. You can't blame. Our inflation is lower.
It's sketchy that the numbers say that the inflation is as low as it is. When dude, it's not like people. You know how expensive things are right now.
Okay, but let's go back to the taxes on tips because you're voting for Donald Trump. As a businessman, I look at you and you're a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's smart to not tax someone making maybe $500,000 in tips a year, but yet tax someone the same rate making $10 an hour at Walmart. Does that make sense to you economically? Because Kamala Harris's plan is very different.
Taxes were lower under Trump. They were for everybody.
Not for the middle class.
Even for the middle class. Yes, they
weren't. That's not true. You can look that up.
I have a lot of friends that are in the middle class that are in the lower middle class. They all told me their taxes.
Well, that's not true. They're wrong.
I mean, they pay their taxes.
Okay,
they're not.
They might pay their taxes, unlike Donald Trump, but they're still wrong. The top 1%.
Unlike Donald Trump, he paid his taxes.
No, he didn't. He didn't pay any federal taxes for 8 years. That's not true.
He took advantage of tax loopholes. That's also true.
Okay. Well,
but he did pay millions of dollars in taxes.
He didn't pay any federal taxes for almost a decade. But the top 1%.
Neither did Amazon.
The top 1%.
Neither did Hillary Clinton.
The top 1% in this country got the biggest tax breaks in decades under Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to Mar-a-Lago, those aren't middle-class people, and those aren't poor people.
I'm not talking about Mar-a-Lago.
But I'm talking about Mar-a-Lago because those are the people that Donald Trump hangs out with, and those are his friends, not many of his supporters.
There's a lot of people there that actually don't like him, but they like Mar-a-Lago, and they like the people there.
But those are the people that Donald Trump hangs out with. He's not hanging out with some of his regular, everyday paycheck-to-paycheck supporters. He doesn't even want to hang out with those people, according to those around him.
True.
Okay.